Hello, my name is Courtney Gutierrez, and I will be discussing how spirituality influences coping mechanisms of stress. I chose this topic because it is very personal to me. Throughout my life, when dealing with stress, my spiritual identity has been the thing that brought me through. My goal as a counselor is to incorporate spiritual aspects into psychological healing, so this topic is very important to me. Stress is generically defined as the accumulation of external factors disrupting the physiological and psychological balance of a living creature. In layman's terms, stress is a disruption of the norm. When our body experiences stress, hormones are released and we enter into fight or flight mode. Actually, there is a third mode that is not commonly discussed: freeze. In fight mode, we become aggravated and aggressive, which can lead to more issues and conflict with those around us. In flight mode, our body tells us to remove ourselves from the situation. This can be potentially harmful, because if we are always in flight mode we will exhibit avoidance. In freeze mode, our body enters into something called dysregulation, which is essentially our energy getting trapped in our nervous system. Stress is broken into two categories: acute and chronic. Acute stress is comprised of everyday stressors that occur at random. This includes a traffic jam, an argument with a loved one, an athletic game, or public speaking. Acute stress is reported to be the most common form of stress. Chronic stress is the more severe of the two and occurs over time. Examples of chronic stress are poverty, a dysfunctional family, an abusive spouse or boss, or even a continuous long commute to work. Chronic stress has a more severe impact on psychological health, and can lead to issues such as depression, anxiety, and even suicide. Stress has physiological and psychological impacts on the body. Physiological effects of stress include headaches and lack of energy, irritability, increased heart rate and blood pressure, nausea and heartburn, weight gain and digestive issues, muscle fatigue, and even a decrease in libido. These physiological effects can lead to more serious issues such as heart attack, diabetes, and anorexia. Psychological impacts of stress are more likely to result from chronic stress. Anxiety, depression, alienation, poor decision-making, negativity, and even suicidal thoughts are all potential side effects of stress. Spirituality is loosely defined as a personal interpretation of beliefs through spiritual practices such as prayer and worship. Spirituality is different from religion, because religion is more focused on communal practices such as church fellowship and group prayer. Spirituality is more focused on a personal relationship with God, or whichever divine power applies to the belief system of the individual. Statistically, 90% of men and women in the United States reported believing in God or some higher power. This shows how important a spiritual lifestyle can be. Spiritual practices such as prayer and worship increase an individual's confidence. When an individual believes in a higher power, they devote their energy and time to pursuing this power. They strive for more understanding and to feel closer to the divine being. This pursuit builds their self-esteem and self-worth, because they recognize that they can set healthy goals and achieve them. Ultimately, this leads to healing. A strong spiritual identity can resolve issues brought forth by both acute and common stress. When acute stress occurs, an individual with strong spiritual foundation is more likely to display compassion, patience, and understanding. For example, if a coworker is being difficult, the individual is more likely to respond in a calm manner if they are spiritually inclined versus if they are not. When an individual is filled with the love of God, or whichever divine power applies, they tend to spread that love to those around them. This improves the overall atmosphere around them and reduces the amount of potential stressors. Continuous spiritual practices also alleviate the symptoms of chronic stress. Resiliency, hopefulness, and a strong sense of self-worth and self-love can be extremely therapeutic. This reduces the likeliness of depression, substance abuse, and suicide. Overall, the benefits that come from having a spiritual foundation can be life-changing and life-saving. Please take a moment to review my references. In conclusion, this was a presentation on the benefits of spirituality on coping with acute and chronic stress.